Go ahead. You are the host.
And well, we can just continue the conversation a little bit more. And I'm curious about when you first came to Singapore. There were also some, local composers already, like Pun Yu Tian or um, I'm drawing a blank, Leong Yun Pin. And have they written stuff already also for Singapore Chinese Orchestra?
Yes, particular Pung Yu. Yeah,
Mm.
and I also conducted some music written by Liang Yongping. Yeah, Liang
Mm-hmm.
Yongping. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, that was quite interesting that time for me to get to know the local composer.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, there was something I wanted to do everywhere I gone to. Yeah, for example, when I got music directorship in South Bend, Indiana, I got to know the composer in Indiana.
Mm.
Then I became music director of Hong Kong Sinfonietta. I got to know a lot of people in Hong Kong and Premier. So no exception. When I 2002, when I got music directorship of SEO in
Mm-hmm.
Singapore, yes, that was one of the first of the things I had to do to get to know the composer, get to know the environment in Singapore.
And that's really wonderful. And now we talk about a lot of music directors kind of flying around, being in with orchestra for maybe 7 to 10 weeks, whereas you really go deep into the community and build those bonds and relationships for a long term um, kind of development. That's really special.
Thank you for saying this. Actually, I had quite some serious thinking in my early career uh, uh, because that time I did have some choice to whether go the route you just mentioned before.
Hmm.
Several jobs, flying back and forth, and
Right.
switch from one job to the other. And actually, I got some advice from some very big mentors. Also told me, say, "Hey, Tsung Yeh, don't stay in one job for too long. 10 years probably the longest, maybe a little bit shorter. Then you're ready to move, that kind of thing." There are many people have done this very successfully, but I actually made the decision to do things otherwise,
Hmm.
and which started from my job in South Bend, Indiana, which is not a huge orchestra, but it's a nice regional orchestra to start to build up my own orchestra, build up myself, conducting technique, also build up repertoire with the Indiana character. So because of that things, I got the ASCAP award. Yeah,
Hmm.
and yeah, build up the repertoire with the character of Indiana. Then I felt really good about it, and I did similar things in Hong Kong when I founded Hong Kong Sinfonietta. Uh, I did even more than Indiana. I
Hmm.
worked with all the Hong Kong composers, work almost annually with their festivals, and so that was why 2002, as soon as I took over the music directorship in Singapore as CEO,
Hmm.
I start to think, what should I do to make some characteristic repertoire for SEO as
Absolutely.
well? Yeah,
Yeah. So, Maestro, before you continue, I'm going to interrupt you. I'm going to make a short announcement because that will be our
please.
main topic for tonight.
Okay,
This
so
discovery.
why don't you start your
Okay.
introduction?
So before I start, I would like to say a quick hello to Kevin and Chen Wei. Thanks for tuning in. So good evening and thank you for tuning in to episode 19 of Unboxing New Music. My name is Boon Hua, and the concept of this show is to introduce and have a conversation with some of the finest composers and performers based in Singapore and Asia on contemporary music. Each episode will feature 2 or 3 pieces that we will listen to together with the score, and I hope you will find something interesting about how the score looks in relation to the music. The live component of this show allows for real time audience interaction, so I encourage our audience to let us know that you are there and are excited about the show by saying hello, sharing this video, or asking questions. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce our guest for tonight. He is music director at the Singapore Chinese Orchestra since 2002 and was awarded the Cultural Medallion, Singapore's highest accolade in the arts, in 2013 for his outstanding artistic contribution. Before that, as you might have heard, he also served as the music director of the South Bend Symphony Orchestra, Northwest Indiana Symphony Orchestra, Hong Kong Sinfonietta, and also excellent arts endowment conductor of the St. Louis Symphony Orchestra. His contributions go a long, long way. So please keep your eyes peeled for some exciting projects coming on with the SCO, and please join me in welcoming Maestro Tsung Yeh.
Hi, Fung. Thank you.
How are
for
you?
such a very long introduction, which
I cut so much out of it already.
Which made me quite old, I think. Oh my goodness, so good to see you again.
Great to see you too. And Maestro, you really pioneered and developed the Singapore Chinese Orchestra signature Nanyang music style by infusing kind of the Southeast Asian elements and heritage into the works. And I would love to, before we go to that topic, I'd love to talk about, your experiences with your previous orchestras and how did all that build towards your journey to Singapore.
Well, this is a very interesting topic for conductors. When I first joined this profession, 1984, became assistant conductor with Maestro Slacking in St. Louis Symphony. Actually, I was told, and there are two types of career. One type of career is jumping between jobs, and I was advised, if you want to go that path, you probably don't want to stay at a job longer than 8 years. 10 years is way too long. Maybe 6 years, you're ready to move to the other one. And then also the other path is if you want to be an orchestra builder. Yeah, the first one is sort of career builder. But then the other path is an orchestra builder, and in the same time build your career, basically, which is you try to find a music directorship yourself, and try to stay with the job longer. So that time I wasn't sure, and I was trying out. But my first music directorship, South Bend, Indiana, made me thinking deeply. Finally, I decided I want to stay that job longer, to have a full experience, and that experience you will never get if you go to the other path, like jumping between the jobs. Because I want to be very deeply into the job, as get to know the community, get to know the orchestra personnel, and try to build up a repertoire, not only just Beethoven, Mozart, Tchaikovsky, but also with the characteristic of the place. So actually, during that time, I commissioned a lot of Indiana composers. Because of that, I got the ASCAP award for that orchestra, which is quite unusual for a regional orchestra. So I got the good taste of that. So when I got my second, actually it's not second, another music directorship in Hong Kong Symphonietta, I even went further of this. I got to know many Hong Kong composers there, and got a lot of new compositions there, and made that become a Hong Kong Symphonietta. There's a trademark that prepare new music. I think Wing C after me actually further developed that characteristic. Yep. So that's no surprise. When I first took over music director of Singapore, and strangely enough, that time I actually had weekend. When I deep into job, you're in Singapore, we don't have a weekend, right? Conductor don't, particularly music director. But that time I actually had some weekend. So I remember it was 2002. That time I didn't have a home in Singapore yet. I still stay in the hotel. So I sort of leisurely walk around and say, hey, this is a museum. So I walk into, hey, good exhibition. Then I titled Nanyang Painting School. Oh, Liu Kang and some others. And I immediately was attracted by the painting in front of me. First of all, they obviously they have a very solid training from the Western. Some of them actually trained in Paris. But on the other side, they also, I can see they have some Chinese painting training too. But most interesting to me is the subject, or a Southeast Asia subject. Yeah, the tropical subject, the very hot weather. And I was just there, and I forgot lunch. Stayed quite a few hours. Then I start to talk to myself, and very softly, of course. I don't want to interrupt other people. I don't want people saying you're crazy. If they call something. No, very soft. I say, hey, if they can have a Nanyang painting school, a group of people called Nanyang painting school, why cannot we have a Nanyang music school for the local characteristic? So because of that vision in my mind, so I did some of my research. I looked into the repertoire that time SU had. And I must say that SU that time was a relatively young professional orchestra, start from semi-professional People's Association, move into our hall not that too long ago. Yeah, I was the second full music director before, of course, before Hu Bingxu, but before Hu Bingxu, of course, there are other conductors as well. But professionally speaking, Hu Bingxu was the very first music director. I'm the second. So it's a relatively young orchestra. I look into our repertoire. I discovered that mostly are the repertoire from China, from Hong Kong, maybe some Taiwan. And I didn't see much things is written for Singapore or the surrounding area. So I start to think, what should I do to change that? Then the good news is that I have been music director for many years in South Bend, in Northwest Indiana, and I started and I worked under Slacking those. He's a big builder of orchestra too, new music, kinetic, and so I know you cannot do too much. First of all, so I did two things. First of all, is try to find some pieces written existing in the library. So I find some piece written by Fung, some piece arranged or composed by Symphonic Epic. He that time was one of our players, and so I take those pieces out into some of my concerts, and then also I got to know later became my great friend. It's also Cultural Medallion recipient, Mr. Lien. Yeah, through some introduction, I got to know him. So I talked to him, say, hey, whether you can make a piece that with a Singapore character. And I remember one of the first pieces I commissioned him was the famous piece later. We played many times. Prince Sanina Utama and the Singa, Wang Zi Shi. So the combination between the presenting old work and the combination between a few commission, I called Chinese 头石问路, means drop some pebble into a pond, see how the reaction. And the reaction actually is quite good, not bad at all. And so I start to get a little bit bold and into a bigger production. And 2002, if you remember Expana about open. Yeah, so I talked to Benson, the executive director, into commission me the whole evening work. And I come up with this title is the Marco Polo and Princess Blue. How do I got this idea? Is actually I read some magazine, and I think it's National Geographic magazine, airline, United Airlines, overseas across the ocean. It says Marco Polo, after stay in Beijing for quite a few years, he got homesick. He wanted to go back to Italy, Venice, I believe. But finally, he got the permission from Kublai Khan. But he said, okay, you can go back, but you need to go with the ocean route, not the land. Yeah. So, and then you also need to bring one of the princess, and on the way to Persia to marry to Kublai Khan's nephew, the king of Iran. Yeah. yeah, Persia that time. Okay, so then I look at the map on the National Geographic. The ship keep going down. Hey, Malacca, that's close enough to Singapore. So I took this part of the thing and I made into a full-blown program, which is not an opera, but not a concert either. Something between opera and a concert. I invite great composer Lien from China. Actually, now he lives in Paris. And the whole evening concert only with three singers. Soprano is Princess Blue, and the tenor is Marco Polo, and then have a bass. Yeah. So no bass, only two characters. I'm sorry, I'm mistaken with that. So that was very bold first big things. I don't know how Benson Hua that time was so brave, took this, and was very brave, and that time was quite successful, that concert. And then so so this is my first stage of trying out, and then I this is quite a few pebbles out, and I actually along with these pebbles, I also need to mention that later I also commissioned him together with the SIFA, Singapore International Arts Festival, for the Zhenghe, the whole production too, the part of that one too. So that these a few production made me confident enough to make a bigger action, which I later call is throw a very big rock into a pond, and then stimulate a huge wave, 一石激起千层浪, which is start with the international the composition competition, but request to have a Nanyang character. Yeah, so that competition, first of all, I believe is 2006. Is that correct? Yeah. Then 2011, 2015, 3 times. So this is the second stage of my work in order to get some more Nanyang characteristic music. Yeah. So am I talking too much?
No, not at all. It was fascinating to hear about your journey in how you came out, you conceptualized the idea of creating this repertoire. Shall we take a listen to Lo Wei Lun's Sang Nila? And I think maybe from there we can go into a little bit more detail about the piece and also some of the kind of the creative processes.
Absolutely.
Great.
Please.
I'm gonna pull out the music to
the score.
王子与狮子 Sang Nila Utama, Prince and Singa. So this is a long piece, so we'll be playing 2 excerpts from it, from the beginning to somewhere in the middle, and then from a little bit at the end.
Yeah. So as I talked before, this is a subject that everybody should know here.
Yes.
So I want to make sure there's no explanations needed, at least for the story, please. Yeah. Then on the other side, obviously, Lo Wei Lun used a lot of local elements together with some quite Western way of composition and some Chinese way of composition. There's 3 different things in this piece. Yeah, the Southeast Asia flavor and the Western compositional technique and some Chinese elements there all together.
Absolutely. Maybe for some of the viewers who are not from Singapore, the legend of Sang Nila Utama is really about a prince who came and discovered the island in Singapore, and he saw a lion, which he eventually, that's why he named this island the Lion Island. And there are various versions of this legend, but it's a legend that many Singaporeans are familiar with, or we've heard when we were in school. And so without further ado, I'd like to jump into the music. then we will jump to a little bit at the end of the piece. Wonderful.
Thank you. Yeah, it's very interesting, and for me to hear this again, and in actually, back from early days, I took this job, and at that time, I chose this subject and asked Llewellyn, as this is a story everybody know, you know. So so a familiar story, and it's easier for people to approach. And it's very interesting that how Llewellyn had been, put the East and West together into this piece.
Yes.
First of all, he certainly did good research. So the gamelan element was very, very obvious. After the initial introduction, you already, in the introduction, already used the Malay drum and with Sona to describe the line, of course. Then for the prince, bum 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 ping ping bum bum ping ping bum bum ping ping bum. That things actually carry through the whole piece later. Yeah, and I remember you mentioned before. You say there's something you feel a little bit French, like a Ravel.
Yeah,
Indeed, we haven't discussed during that time, because to me, I feel whether Southeast Asia or other part of Asia, the French and Asia music it have some good connections. You know, actually, Debussy, the end of the 1800s, and during the whenever the exhibition in Paris, he was fascinated by the gamelan.
Absolutely.
Presented. So actually, the French impressionistic music has a lot of things they borrow from gamelan idea, ding ding dong. And so now we bring this back to the Asian music, to our Nanyang music. How this whole global thing's going. First of all, Debussy took something from Asia, then Lowell take it back, and yeah. Then the last section is very interesting. The processional music start from the low string, bum, 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 bum. It's the composition speaking is almost like a Passacaglia. Yeah, a Passacaglia keep going, but the rhythm pattern is from a gamelan, and then develop fully and one level to the other level into a great ending. So this is a really great piece. I conducted many times in different places, always with a very satisfactory, result. I hope you like it.
Yes, I certainly do. And it's really wonderful too that when I was doing my research on this piece and I saw on YouTube, there was also a lot of younger ensembles playing this piece. So this piece is not just written for, kind of only the top groups in the world can do it, but it's also in some ways very educational for younger groups to do this piece. And there's so much for them to gain out of this.
Actually, I also had a version, this piece with a dance group invited from Indonesia. So Llewellyn developed this piece to stretch to almost 30 minutes long, another version. So we had some the Indonesia dances on the stage.
Fantastic.
Yeah, indeed. So the original version is the only orchestra, shorter, then developed into almost 30 minutes plus a piece with the dances. The way Indonesia dance doing, they can do in a rather small space with some very sophisticated hand gesture. It's just marvelous.
And that's really a wonderful thing that you brought to SEO. I mean, this gift of bringing different factors together. And I read that, on the National Day Parade in 2007, you conducted a wonderful performance with musicians from SCO, from SSO, from the Singapore Armed Forces, as well as kind of Malay, Indian, and also Nanyang ensembles all put together playing kind of Nanyang music. And that's really an astonishing feat.
Thank you. That was quite a treat for me. And I had a wonderful experience with the Singapore soldiers. I love them, wonderful people. I spent a few months there as a music director. And that time I was very bold to propose, first time in history of NDP, to have SCO and SSO both into this, plus a huge chorus. And then all the ensembles from Chinese side, Nanyang, and Malay ensemble, and Indian ensemble, all into. And then also in the end of the, that was the first time in the floating stage, by the way, 2007. Yeah. And I remember in the end of the show, I asked for a big cantata with big chorus conducted by Jennifer Tan. And that time was quite bold because I also request to engage the top composer, Llewellyn, Eric Watson, and the Punyo team, three of them. And I actually I attended a high-level committee meeting hosted by Du Zihien, wonderful person. And when after I proposed the whole thing, then I discovered that the whole committee was very quiet. Then I see, oh my God, entire the top generals there. Oh my God, it was very quiet for about 8 or 10 seconds. Then that one general stood up. Later, the people told me he is top of a unit. It's supposed to be with the best soldiers in Singapore for fighting. He said, Maestro, may I ask, what is cantata? Well, I say, then I suddenly realized I'm talking with a not NHC, not National Arts Council. I talk with the general. They're very good for wars, things like this. So I say, hey, do you know Auto Joy? Yes. There's type of a cantata. Cantata means a big chorus with grand, gesture, so and so forth. That time, then the executive director of Esplanade, Benson, Fung, jumped up and he explained the whole thing. Yeah. And the whole committee said, hey, let's have a cantata. I said, yes, of course, the Singapore deserves cantata. Interesting, wonderful. Thank you for bringing this up. 207, I had one more time with the Singapore Army there.
Yeah. And maybe with that, we can also go back to a topic that you mentioned before about kind of starting a competition to find more pieces for this Nanyang style. And you mentioned, how surprised you were that there were so many quality entries in the 3 competitions that you held over the years. I believe you mentioned 2006, 2011, 2015. And the next piece that we will hear is the first prize winner of the 2015 competition.
Absolutely, and because of the success of the Lorien's first composition, just heard Samina, Utama, and Singa, and also other success. So I became a bit more brave, and instead of a little pebble in a small pond, so I dropped a huge rock into an ocean and actually stimulate a huge wave. Yeah, and so there was 2006 that I launched the very first international competition for composition, but different than any other most of the composition competition. I request all the compositions submit must be with the Nanyang flavor. Then I explained that so-called Nanyang flavor is the characteristic of Singapore or the surrounding country, maybe Malaysia and maybe Indonesia, or even can go further to Philippines. That time because I want to open the door wider because the Nanyang style for most people is a little bit unfamiliar. So this is almost like a rock into a ocean and stimulated tremendous reaction. I was shocked. First of all, I was worried. Ask my manager, how many people will ask? Actually, the reaction was enormous. The submission of the work is 7-day plus work submit, and we have many people make inquiry, and finally we got a good 6 winning compositions and 6 winning pieces, and among them, and Lien was one of them, and his piece actually was an existing piece, so cannot get the first, second, third prize. So his piece for that competition was sort of honorary, called Nanyang award. Yeah, we special set because that time I want to open the door very wide, and not only new composition, the existing composition can come in too, as long as within Nanyang with Nanyang flavor. But also we have we have Tsung Yeh that time, very young. He was already winning of the Singapore a composition award. Yeah. Then we also have Simon Kong, yeah, winning the second prize. Yi Ga Ho in the third prize. Now, the first prize was completely a surprise to all of us. Actually, was not Singaporean, was not from Malaysia, was not from Indonesia, was not from China too. Yeah, it's Eric Watson, an English gentleman who has lived in this area for many years. And yeah, so his piece, actually, we had a long discussion whether we want to give him, but really the composition, that tapestry was so good that time. So we offer him the the first prize. And years later, we also appoint him as a composing resident after Llewellyn for 3 years. And he had composed quite a few pieces, more than a few pieces for us, to excellent compositions, arrangement, many things. So we had this is the very first competition in 2006. Then because of the volume of compositions, because of the quality of composition, because of the effect of the compositions, and caught attention for many people, then our Prime Minister Li get to know, and he expressed interest to support us. So actually, he donated his own money, 700,000 Sing dollar, to sponsor our composition competition from the 2011 to 2015. So our second and third, the composition competition for Nanyang style was actually sponsored by Prime Minister. Ladies and gentlemen, this actually broke a historical record. Never, ever a top, government, is the head of a country, personally, not governmental money, not from the government budget, his own private money to sponsor a composition competition, first time in history. So I call this as the 海阔天空, the open up the sky. Open up the sky. Yeah. So we after that we have two more competition, 2011 and 2015, and 2011 we also have another 6 winning pieces, and 2015 we have 5 of them. And the one you mentioned, 诗舞弄清韵, Lion Dance,
which is the next piece we'll listen to.
Listen to is was the first prize winning piece for the third one, 2015. The winning composer actually was from Hong Kong. And so what I want to mention is actually after the first competition, 2006, and after the third competition, 2015, I also called a symposium with all the winning composers, and also judge and call in some famous musicologists from China, from Indonesia, other places, and Singapore as well. So we had a long discussion about how concept, actually whether this the Singapore or surrounding country characteristic music should be called the Nanyang flavor. We had a long discussion. I actually asked, and certain people say, oh, maybe call some other things. But finally, actually, in the end of the discussion, all people say, well, Nanyang seems as the most suitable for this type of composition. Then also we talk about the condition of the winning pieces, other pieces. Obviously, during the first wave of the Nanyang pieces, most of the composers try to go to Indonesia, Malaysia, try to get inspiration from gamelan, from wayang kulit, and that type of thing. And then we talk about, hey, there are many Chinese elements in Southeast Asia too. Don't forget, yeah, whether it's in Singapore and Indonesia and Malaysia, where's the Nanyang Chinese flavor? So I actually personally call people's attention to this particular one. I say, look, and then we recognize it's not any Chinese music is suitable for Nanyang, and so we specifically call attention to the Lien the southern Chinese. So according to this, the Singapore, how the Singapore Chinese ethnicity, the formation, they're from Cantonese, from Mingnan, Fujian, yeah, from Hakka, from Hainan, these four sources. So I ask the composers to think of these characteristics, these music. And then also I brought the winging composers, and we had quite some field trip, into at least two into Malaysia, Sabah, Sarawak, and one into Indonesia, one into southern China, Guangdong and Fujian, and also I remember we visit some harvest festival in Indonesia. It's just wonderful. Then through this the trips, and the composers got a lot of inspiration. So they start to come. So I commission new pieces and to be played by CO. So I told everyone that the competition is not the end of the story; it's the beginning of the story. Composition bring the attention. Then the competition bring us a group of a composition and give us a group of composers. So next step is further develop from this a group of a composition and composer with field trip, with further commission work, further recording, further performances. And I brought these pieces with SEO tour to Europe, to China.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the next piece you're about to play, actually, we have played in Berlin not too long ago, last year. I believe at the end of August in the concert house. With the Yijia solo. So I still call this is we are in the beginning of a journey into Nanyang, but look back, I think we have received a lot. I really appreciate all the composers for their hard work.
I'm going to play the music, and we will. I've worked on this piece during the conducting masterclass last year with you, and I was so grateful that that you put this piece on, because it's for me it's a really wonderful piece that combines contemporary techniques with something traditional. And kind of the choice of the masterclass, the pieces that you selected are mainly pieces from the Nanyang repertoire, which I think it's great because you really advocate these pieces, in all different dimensions, for young conductors to learn, for young ensembles to learn and perform, and then to bring them on tour, to big concert house in Europe. So this is really fantastic. Okay, let's jump to the music.
Please, otherwise people are falling asleep. So this is basically a pipa concerto. The soloist is our principal Yu Jia, and the piece was performed August 30th at the concert house in Berlin last year, 2019.
Fabulous. So this is Arise, You Lion of Glory, or the Chinese name, which I like better, is 十五弄清韵 by Fung. I'm going to stop right there for the interest of time. But I also realized I never really introduced a little bit of the piece before we played it. But for the listeners who hear this boom, chicka boom, boom, cha, dum, chicka dum, dum, dum. I mean, the first thing when you hear that, it reminds you of lion dance, and this piece is about lion dance, and this piece is about kind of an imagination of the lion coming out from the mountain, and this doing this traditional Cantonese lion dance. What a wonderful piece.
Absolutely, and I still remember the way you conduct and the fun you had with SEO. What's amazing things about this composition, and also why it got first prize, winning first prize, is the two different things, very opposite things. One is the very traditional. He kept more or less the 12th section from the original traditional Xing Shi, the Cantonese. It didn't change too much. Yeah, but orchestration is completely different. The contemporary orchestration. Yeah, you can write this piece into a very traditional composition. I've seen many, but the composer, the marvelous things he did is he took a very contrasting orchestration, contrasting rhythm, and then two things actually work out well together, and the contrasting and the together, contrasting together, competing, and then it just make this piece is much more interesting, and also with a lot of more intensity, that kind of thing. And one story I want to tell you is in Berlin Concert House. Normally speaking, I do have a little bit amplification for the solo pipa due to a lot of percussion.
I see.
Yeah, normally a little bit, but Berlin Concert House manager told me, Maestro, we do not allow any amplification in our concert house. Oh, okay. Then so during the very short afternoon dress rehearsal, I told the entire orchestra, look at my hand, and then the rehearsal actually wasn't long. I made whatever I can, and thanks to all of my colleagues, the SEO, finally the concert actually went very well without any microphone to support the solo pipa. And my friend actually sat quite far in the concert house, told me he heard every single notes from Yu Jia. And the meantime, the piece is still very dramatic whenever it come out. And I really appreciate SEO. After being with them for those years, they can really read my conducting gesture very well. If I see it immediately when I do this, they have react immediately and all kind of things. On the other side, they can be very loud too. So this is a wonderful story. I want to tell everyone that a well-rehearsed Chinese orchestra, they can be very sensitive as SEO in a situation. This is a quite percussive piece, a lot of percussion. Orchestration very heavy, but without any solo microphone. You just every note, very clearly heard by audience.
And the concert house is such a wonderful hall. It looks very big, but it's the sound is really great over there.
Yeah, very great.
How was it like in Prague? Because I think I remember the orchestra performed there too, in the Dvorak Hall, and that's a the hall really gets very muddy when there's a lot of sound there.
Yeah, so I request a lot of more clarity, and that time then you and me conductor need to use your own ear to judge different things, and so with the muddy hall, I try to cut the orchestra a little bit shorter, drier, everything drier, short, everything shorter, yeah, and I think we also got quite a good result there too. And SEO, after we working together for so many years, they can do a lot of things that I would have problem with other orchestra, not only Chinese orchestra, I mean, even symphony orchestra too. Yeah. Particularly when you go guest conduct with some orchestra, you wouldn't have that kind of rapport with orchestra like I see with myself.
Right, of course, after so many years of working together. And perhaps also from this piece by Gordon Fung, I mean, you mentioned he uses the materials from the Southern Chinese music, and I would like to just from previous episodes of doing this series, we talked about kind of the kind of preserving the tradition and actually doing some research to find out more about that. And I'm wondering what's your take on kind of ethnomusicology and the practical use for composers.
I think that's very important to go back to the original source, and of course that their composers they don't believe that they want to compose everything. I don't want to mention they a couple of the great masters, but however, I think majority of the composer actually like to go back to original source, and particularly in our way to search for Nanyang style music. It's a very important thing to get to know what the Southeast Asia original music is. That was why we brought the composers to several field trips. We went to Sabah, Sarawak, Indonesia. We actually danced with the festival, and oh yeah, in Sarawak, one of the I forgot which is the festival is. We jumped down and do all kinds of rhythm. And then in Indonesia, one of the village they actually organized a special festival for us. And in the other village, we joined their annual harvest festival. Yeah, one I remember one village lady. She looks like some type of priest kind of, and she obviously had some ability to talk with this supreme being somewhere. And she been dancing there for 12 or 14 hours without going to the bathroom at all. Yes, and I was advised when she point a finger to you, you better avoid, otherwise you will have to go with her dancing together. So I was just looking at like this for a while. As soon her fingers start to point out to me, I try to hide a little bit. Otherwise, I can't be here with you anymore. I will be stuck in that village. Anyway, we had a lot of wonderful experience. Then in southern China, we went to visit Nanyang group. Yeah, and I heard some amazing things. And the people in Quanzhou, the Nanyang group, actually told me Nanyang is now probably is the oldest Chinese music they can chase after. Although Chinese music tradition you can chase back to 5,000 years, but what is you have to in writing, Nanyang is the oldest from Song Dynasty. But they told me actually the oldest Nanyang actually is no longer in China. Actually, they say you should go to Philippines. They have better preserved Nanyang music in Philippines because it throws the early immigration. Yeah, right. A group of people somehow hiding somewhere without being interrupted by war, by whatever, and I'm also appreciative the Xiangling 音乐社 in Singapore preserved this, and so I visit them, Xiangling 音乐社, and I brought them to NDP, and then also I visited the other Duzhou music group. I remember one of ensemble called Hanyue, a group of old gentlemen. They playing this instrument. Some instrument looks very distinctive. Yeah. And then I asked them, say, why you call Hanyue? He said, Mr. Ye, I don't really know. I said, Hanyue because from Wuhan. He said, I don't know. From Hanchao, I don't know. And so then I suddenly realized that actually, even in Singapore, we do have some treasure in our hand. We may not know. And then I also realized, because when I second time go back to same group, 2 years later, I see one of the gentlemen is no longer there. I say, where is he? Oh, he passed away. My God. Yeah.
So history is disappearing in front of our eyes.
So actually, that type of a music tradition, of course, you can go to China, to the Philippines, but there's something also in Singapore. Yeah, so I encourage whoever listen to our talk today, go to Singapore, certain association here, there. There might be some things very old from China, maybe 100 years ago. They're still playing something. But what they needed to be recorded, audio, recording, and also written down what the music is. But what more important is some research is needed. Yeah, we need to research. Research means where this music from, and then how this music can be developed, it can be performed, so on and so forth. Anyway,
absolutely.
Yeah,
I'm going to highlight the quick comment by Jiang Ciliang. And he's saying the maestro is telling our story, and please mention the bus.
Oh, yes, that was on the way to the Harvest Festival. And our bus suddenly dipped into a hole.
Oh my God.
Yeah, then Jiang Ciliang, Simon, and Yi Ho, I believe Mr. Lo Weilun wasn't probably there too. So that they will all jump out of the bus and try to move that bus out of the hole. And in vain, impossible. Then after a while, villager came out. They say, "Oh, we can help you too." Yeah, but so of course they try to help us to pull the bus out, and impossible to. So finally, we ran another bus from the villager. Yeah, but that bus actually you cannot close the door. The door somehow had to remain open, and I can't find in the seat belt. And we have hold on the bus. That was quite a interesting experience. Then the end of the journey, we go to that particular village. You see the lady is talking with the Supreme Being in 12 hours dancing. And I was warned that whenever she finger point you, you try to avoid. Once you lost yourself, start to dance with her for next 10 hours or something.
Chen Wei mentions that he has photos of the lady at the bus. And I told him to send it to me. Hopefully he can send it to me soon.
Yeah, Chen Wei was there too. Chen Wei was...
He put it on so we can all take a look and have a nice laugh.
Absolutely.
No, but thank you so much for sharing these wonderful stories, and also really kind of spearheading this wonderful initiative to not just commission music, but develop, and then holding field trips to different countries with different composers, and having this experience together, having these wonderful stories together. I think that's really going far and beyond just being a music director, being completely committed to your community and being completely passionate about developing not just new music but also young talents.
Absolutely. I feel also this is a wonderful experience if we go to a field trip together that develop camaraderie between conductor and a composer, and we also have a manager too. And remember, in a very dark night, in a place you don't see any light, no village, nothing, and then a group of us try to move a bus out of the mud. That kind of camaraderie you can never forget.
I think here are the pictures.
Oh my God! Yes. Oh yeah. Yes.
This lady and the bus.
Absolutely.
Wonderful memories.
Yeah. So her finger supposed to be very tough. When she pointed you, Boon Hua, Yeah, you are not yourself anymore. You're supposed
Wow.
to dancing continuously under her whatever. And you may be dancing next 10 hours
Yeah,
without going to bathroom at all.
fantastic. Well, this has been an absolutely delightful chat with you, Maestro, and we have gone way beyond time. But with always with
Oh,
you, it never feels like time is too long. We can always keep talking for even longer, and I'm always so appreciative of all the work and all the contribution you have made to our community here. So thank you very very much. And before we end, I would just like to ask if there are any exciting projects that we should look out for from SEO.
well, I have just recently recorded two chamber concert program. Yeah, one called Encounter, 邂逅 in Chinese. The other one called 悠然夜话. Yeah, sort of music from the night. Yeah, the two program, and all with the ensemble from a solo, duet, quartet, trio, quintet, eight. Yeah, and these will be coming out quite soon, and through Cystic Life, and then also SCO along with the SSO and other professional group in Singapore. We are preparing some new performance soon, hopefully with audience, but we'll be very cautiously in a few stages. And so all in all, I think what's important thing is all the musical group and all the arts group in Singapore right now, we are thinking of the new business model for
I
the
think all around
future.
the world.
Yeah, all the world means how much we'll do the live concert with a live audience, and how much will be digital, and how these two will playing together, and then we even look into the detail like are we going to keep the same type of length of a concert, or should it be shorter, or
Without a break or something.
yeah, without break, or the way of a concert, how a few different type of concerts should be together. So this is something for all of the musicians or artists to think about it.
Yeah.
And so I would see in next 2 years, the arts world and the music world will have a big change, and I'm all up to that change.
Wonderful. Thank you again for your time tonight, and thank you for the audience who are tuning in and also sharing these wonderful stories together with everyone listening.
Thank you, Boon Hua. I think we should return you to your baby. I heard the baby
Yes,
in the
he's
background.
making some sound.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Boon Hua.
Okay, and thank you again to you, Maestro. I hope to see you soon.
Thank you.
And good night to everyone.
Good night.